So this is part 6, how did you attract and address your target audience, and today we'll be talking about how we think we reached them.
When we done our final piece of work, we asked people to watch it and give feedback. There were many questions that included things like camera language, location, and how it seemed like a British social realist film.
We think that we've reached our target audience in many aspects, and one of the things that we think we have been successful in is appealing to the themes that they would like, specifically the theme of violence. In our pre-production, when we was planning it, we done a vox pop and asked people the question what themes would they like to see portrayed more, and many of the people said violence. So when we was planning and making the storyline of our media product, we made sure to add a violent character into it.
In our audience feedback, under the question what appeals to you as a British person in the film, people said that they thought that the violence appealed to them. We think that they were appealed to this as it's more like what things are going on around them, so they're seeing it every day on the news and stuff like that. They were able to relate to it, and then they found it more interesting than if there was a thing they had no idea about. Also, we were quite glad that that was the result, as we weren't too sure that in our opening sequence it might not have been very clear if that's what the theme was.
We also think that we have been successful in appealing to our target audience through location. In our media product, you can see things that relate to British culture. For example, London buses, which is about halfway through the media product. We think this appeals to our target audience because it's a location that they know and they can relate. Like, they know what the bus is, they know it's a London bus. So we think it makes them more of an active audience as they think about it more and take it in as it's what they see around them every day.
Whilst we was planning, we decided that we wanted to put shots that related with London. So by putting the bus shot, we think that we achieved this as it shows people where it's set without having to actually tell them that they're in London. During pre-production, we also done a post on our blog about possible locations, which is where we looked at all different types of locations that we think would be suitable for our film, and that's basically how we got to our stage.
In the audience feedback, under the questions, what appeals to you as a young British person in the film, one person said that location-wise is what appeals to them. And also, under another question, in someone else's feedback, the question was, what elements of this media text are British social realist? And someone said, the British bus which the girl travels on. So we think that our location has been a success as it relates to them, and they could watch the media text for personal identity instead of just entertainment, as it's to do with their culture.
We also think that we met our target audience through age, as in the brief it said that we had to have a target of ages between 16 and 24. In our planning, we looked at our research and found that people enjoy films like adulthood and kidulthood, and they're based around young people, so we thought that we'd put our main character as a young girl, as we thought it would appeal to them, as it's what they liked.
In one person's audience feedback, under the question what appeals to you as a young British person in the film, someone said that the characters, especially the girl, is relatable because she is young. This appeal was intended because and what we aim for in our planning, because we think that using a young character appeals to our target audience more because she would do similar things as they do and have similar interests. This makes our target audience watch our media product for personal identity because they can relate to her, but also for social reasons as they could then talk about the character with their friends. So overall, we think we were successful in reaching our target audience in terms of age because we think that they can relate and be appealed to the character in the film. In our film, we used a white female character. We thought this would appeal to mainly a white audience because we think that they would relate to that character more as they would have sort of similar interests and live in like the same culture. But we also aimed it at people with different ethnic backgrounds as we made our character not fully British. So we wanted to aim it at sort of a different target audience than most British social realism films.
In our feedback, we had people saying that they thought the girl was an English-British girl. However, that weren't the case of what we wanted to come across, as we wanted her to be Albanian. So therefore it weren't really a success. If we'd done it again though, we would probably add something, so maybe like the Albanian flag, or make her speak and maybe put an accent on so it's obvious that she wasn't English.
So overall, we weren't really successful in reaching our target audience to do with ethnicity because most of the people didn't realise that she was Albanian.
I think that we appealed to the target audience through mise-en-scène and lighting, as we had the girl's bedroom really messy and dull, and it sort of showed that she's poor, especially where we made her like dress with no makeup and all dark clothing which was like cheap, just to make her look like she's sort of depressed and down.
In our audience feedback under the question what made it look like a British social realism film, people said that the mise-en-scène and the lighting, which in our planning we thought very hard about to try and make it look like a British social realism film. So we was thinking of like what we could do in each shot to the mise-en-scène to make it look more realistic, and so people can relate to what they see.
To the target audience, as the target audience is like aimed at people living in working class conditions, and that's what our character is also living in. Therefore, they'll be able to like relate to the character as they're both basically the same. And we also think that it would relate to the age of our target audience, as young people tend to be quite messy and untidy like our character. Therefore, we have basically met the audience's needs.
There have been many other successful things that came from our audience feedback, such as our variety of camera language. People said that they thought the placement of our establishing shots were in the perfect place and it didn't confuse them throughout the rest of the film. And they also said that we used a wide variety of shots, for example the graphic match and the cross-cutting.
This was good to hear, as in our planning we thought long and hard to put in as many variety shots as we could to make it as interesting as possible. People said that the graphic match was what made our piece original, which was also positive feedback and made our audience appeal to them, made them like watch the film more and want to see more.
Also, other positive feedback was that they thought we had good diegetic sound. This was great as we took a lot of time and effort trying to make the sound perfect so that you couldn't hear each different shot, because it would put the audience off and make it quite distracting. So it appealed to them by making the sound more consistent.
However, some people said that the non-diegetic sound weren't that great, as they thought it sort of seemed a bit upsetting and depressing, and some even said like a horror film, and they also thought that it should be like upbeat. But we kind of disagree with this, as we picked it specifically because we thought that it would have been good, as we thought it added like dullness and emphasises like the boring life of the main character, which is like a main convention in British social realist films, as there's always a character that's like depressed and lonely.
One group of people also said that our graphics weren't consistent, which we was aware of because we wanted the graphics of the institutions to be different than the graphics of in the rest of the film, because we thought as they were different things and it's at the start, it would be better to do two different fonts. But they did like the font that we did use for the graphics and said that it was very original and fitted in with the genre of British social realist, which we were happy about as it's more positive feedback, so we were glad to see that the audience were appealed to it. We have been successful in reaching our target audience at a high level, as we tried very hard during the planning stages to ensure that it would appeal them in every way possible.
The reasons we think this is because through our audience feedback we found that there was both positive and negative things, but it showed that overall our work had been successful and appealed to them very well.
Also, how we aim to appeal to them, people mentioned in the audience feedback. For example, the point about mise-en-scène that we said previously.
Even though we have been very successful in reaching our target audience, we could have done this more effectively, maybe by portraying like the character's ethnic background clearer, as that was a main segment for our target audience, but we were very happy with the results that we had.
Part 6, how did you attract and address your target audience? Thank you for watching.